but about as ready as I'm going to be. Where is it?
We're live. We are live.
Good afternoon, morning, whatever time this message finds you. I am happy to be here. Obviously, I am not Jametta Lilly. My name is Terry Whitfield. I'm a program officer for the Skimmer Foundation and proud member of the COVID313 Community Coalition. As a group, we would like to send our thoughts and prayers to Jametta and the Lilly family as they are going through a tremendous amount of loss during this time, as we all are. So we would want to make sure that we send her our thoughts and prayers and positive energy to her and her family at this time. As always, we are into our 26th week of providing information, conversation, and an opportunity to engage with stakeholders that help to make our community move. And as a community coalition, we're happy to be here again. So right now, I'm not going to hold the mic for too long. I'm actually going to hand it off to my co-partner and co-host, Ms. Christine Bell. Christine.
Thanks, Terry. It's good to have you as co-moderator today, and please send the Lilly family all of the good energy that you possibly can. They need it right now. Again, I'm Christine Bell. I'm the mom of 3 really amazing children, honored to serve as the executive director of Urban Neighborhood Initiatives and proud member of this coalition. We want to give folks time to get to the right place. And as always, we're translating the town hall to Spanish, Arabic, and ASL. So we want to make sure that everyone gets to the right place so that they can hear this important information. So Cindy, can you please share the phone number for the Spanish translation?
If you need Spanish translation, please call 313-626-7440. Si necesitas traducción en español, habla al 313-726-7440. Hoy la señora Gloria Rosas y su servidora Cristina Ruiz Mazón haremos la traducción. Thank you, Christine. This is Christina, sorry.
Yes, I just saw that. I was going to say thank you, Christina. Thank you so much for being here. Cindy's not on today. Saeed, welcome back. Can you please share the Arabic translation?
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية، الرجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. الرقم مجددا 313-241-7030. معكم سعيد دحدح ونحن مستعدون لخدمتكم وشكرا. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed. Julie, please share the instructions for ASL. Thank you, Julie. So as always, we want to hear from you. You can chat your comments or questions in the Facebook chat, or you can text them to 313-288-2082. Again, the number is 313-288-2082. We want you to stay with us for the next 60 minutes so that you can stay informed and powerful during this very, very chaotic time. This is also a time for you to ask experts your questions. And we're going to have a little fun first. And we're going to be doing some yoga. So we're really excited about that. Again, to ask your questions, please put them in the Facebook chat, or you can text them to 288-2082. Again, the number is 313-288-2082. We're going to have questions and answers after each segment. If we can't answer your questions today, we're committed to getting you the answers by early next week. All questions asked today will be posted with the answers on onedetroitpbs.org. For our experts, please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They want to make sure that they're translating the important information that you are sharing correctly. Also, turn off your camera when you're not speaking to ensure that our ASL interpreter can be seen. And really important, mute yourself when you're not speaking. Terry Whitfield, our co-moderator, is also our timekeeper. He will chat you to your remaining time. And if you go over your time, he will come up onto the screen and gently remind you to wrap it up. So to get us started today, I am honored to introduce Nkenge Browner from Mothering Justice, the Director of Organizing. Nkenge?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kresge Browner. I am the Organizing Director at Mothering Justice. And as you can probably hear, my kids are on virtual school right now because I'm a mother of 2 boys. As if we needed any more worry or anxiety in 2020, as we deal with COVID-19, 2020 also happens to be a voting year. Because of COVID-19, we are more able to feel and live the issues that we're already in need of solving. We see the housing, healthcare, childcare, and food industry issues. We can plainly see the education divide between the student families that have and the student families that have not. We see the confusion and miseducation around absentee ballots, and we fear if the post office will even survive the handling of the ballots. This election, we must be mindful of the issues we're experiencing and the issues we see children experiencing firsthand. We have to vote because our healthcare is inadequate. We need to vote to end classism in education. We have to vote to ensure childcare is available to families. We need to vote because voting was earned by every minority group who exercises the right. In an effort to stay in touch with parents and understand their community needs, COVID313 will be sending out a first week feedback survey. It's available in the chat and on our Facebook page. And now I'm happy and excited to introduce Kimberly, who will be doing some voting yoga.
Thank you so much, Nkenge. Greetings, everyone. So the first thing we're going to need to do is remember to breathe, right? So everybody, right where you are, just place your hands on your desk. So this is yoga that's going to work for you, whether you're seated or you're standing, because sometimes we have to stand even while sitting down. So hands flat on the surface in front of you. Take a nice, easy breath in, and then gently blow it out through your lips. Repeat that again 2 times on your own, breathing in through your nose, breathing out gently through your lips. And that 3rd time, breathing in through your nose and out through your lips. Just feel everything settling down into your seat. All right, so I'm going to join you from a seated position. Let's see. Adjust my camera so you can see me a little bit better. All right, so here's the surface in front. So what we're going to do is take one hand and slide it across your desk. Breathe in and exhale and bring it back. And then once again, breathing in, take the other hand, slide it across the desk. And bring it back, because in voting season, we're going to need some people to reach across the aisle in ideology to do the right thing for the whole community, right? Okay. From here, with your hands flat, just inhale, reach up, look up, and exhale. Bring your chin forward, let your back round, and again. We look straight ahead. Sometimes things are looking kind of funky, but we have a vision for our community. So take a beautiful breath in, reach up, look up. And as you exhale, release that breath, and we're going to clear out anything that's going to stand in the way of our rocking this boat, all right? Because our hands have been busy mousing about, just make 2 gentle fists. And we're going to breathe in and bring them up. And exhale and bring them down, nice and smooth and slow, right? So rocking the boat with our wrists to say yes, thinking about everything that we want to get done in our community and say yes to. And then pause in the middle, take a breath, and of course there's some things we're gonna have to say no to. Are you clear about that? Those things that we want to say no, so just gently take your risks. And then now, everything, V for voting, bring your hands together and gently open and close. And once again, open a little bit further and exhale, close. This time, inhale, open, arms up. V for vote, V for victory. Exhale, bring your arms down and then shake them out. All right, my friends. So now we're gonna do something that can be done, again, sitting down or standing up. So this hand that was sliding across the aisle, the other fingertips are on the shoulders. We're gonna take a nice easy breath in and bring up half that V. Oh, but look, here's a V. So we're looking for all the ways in which our bodies are gonna help us rock the boat from head to toe. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale. And exhale. And to the other side. Reaching across, fingertips to shoulders. Inhale. And exhale. We're also increasing our capacity to take in a good breath, because when we are able to breathe, we're able to think. And when we're able to think, we are empowered to make change. All right, everybody, inhale. Both arms up. Rock the boat. V for victory. Beautiful breath in. Exhale. Let it out. All right, so if you're gonna stay seated, but you know, all of this sitting down, even for our students, we need to remember to stand. So I'm gonna adjust my screen just a little bit and come and stand behind the chair, right behind the chair so that I have support. And again, we're gonna reach across to one corner and then inhale, bring that elbow up. And this time, exhale, reach a little bit higher. Inhale, reach up, exhale. Maybe even bring it over your head. Now, don't give up. It's gonna be a little uncomfortable. It's gonna get hard. Reach even higher. Breathe in, exhale. Bring it down. So we're rocking this boat. Might feel a little uncomfortable sometimes, but that's okay. We can do it. Reaching across. Fingertips to shoulders. Get ready, inhale. And exhale, release and let it go. Repeat, inhale. A little higher, reaching over to one side. Reaching up a little higher. Inhale, reach up a little higher with the fingertips. Exhale, those fingertips over your head. It's getting deep, don't worry, breathe. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, release both arms down. We did it. Inhale, both arms wide to the side. V for vote, V for victory. We can get this done. Exhale and bring your arms down, right? So, victory from head to toe, standing behind a chair, now with our legs. Reaching back a little bit, and a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more. Now that V for victory is on the lower half of our body. Inhale, exhale into the soles of your feet. Feel that solid foundation. One more inhale in, exhale, bend that front knee, lean in toward the chair for support, and to the other side, stepping back just a little bit. Breathe in, exhale, step back a little bit more, step back a little bit more, breathe here. Deeply all the way down the landscape of your body into the soles of your feet. One more breath in, exhale, bend that front knee. Shift your weight from back to front. We did it. One more breath in. Inhale, V for victory. Rock the boat. Exhale. One more time. Third time's the charm. Inhale. And as we bring our rock the boat yoga to a close, I invite you to be well on your journey to wellness. Don't forget to vote. Peace.
Thank you, Kimberly. As always, the thought that comes to my head is that perspective drives performance, and our ability to remain calm and centered and in the moment and present is ever more important now than ever, given the craziness that is surrounding us at this time. So thank you again, Kimberly, for all that you do. We're excited, as always, to be able to provide our viewership with the information and the content that we know and that we've heard most demands that we know that parents and families need at this time. So we're excited to have Dr. Valbuena with the Chas Center with us today to talk about the conversation du jour is around vaccinations, around immunizations, and around how all of that plays in to this COVID world that we're living in. So Dr. Valbuena, thanks for joining us.
Terry, thank you so much for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be with you today and with everybody to share a little bit about healthcare and how COVID has impacted some of the visits that we have for ourselves and for our children. Again, my name is Felix Valbuena. I'm a practicing family physician, and I currently serve as the CEO of the Community Health and Social Services Center, more commonly known as the Chas Center. So in COVID times, we had to make adjustments based on the Center for Disease Control guidelines. And we currently are using screening policies, screening procedures for everybody that comes to the center. And the very first thing that I would say is you shouldn't go to your doctor's office, you shouldn't come to the center without prior communication with us to have you on an appointment. We discourage walk-ins because we're trying to decrease the risk of transmission of the virus. So as you come to the center for a scheduled appointment, we're going to ask that you come wearing a mask. And at the entry, there is a screening process. They'll take your temperature and ask some questions to make sure that we are doing our best to decrease the risk of spreading the virus for individuals that come to the center. We also ask that you, ideally, the person who has the visit only come to the visit. For children, obviously, one guardian is the ideal to have them accompany the child. We've decreased the number of patients that we take care of in a given time frame because of the social distancing guideline. So our waiting room now has half the number of seats available, so that when individuals are in the center, we're working hard to maintain that social distancing. We had decreased the number, the types of visits, but currently we're, for medical, able to see all the visits, whether it's a chronic disease visit, whether it's a well child visit, whether it's an immunization visit, because we did see during the stay home, stay safe order that we wanted, that individuals that wanted to come in were not able to come in. And so we're a little behind on visits, we're a little behind on immunizations, but it is very, very important that we bring everybody back up to date with their chronic disease as well as their vaccination schedules, including now in this season that we're starting the flu vaccine. It's going to be even more important this season to get the flu vaccine because of the COVID pandemic that we're in, the fact that the symptoms are very similar, the fact that the way that we decrease the risk of spread for both are very similar. We want to be able to eliminate flu as the reason for the symptoms that individuals are presenting with. So it's very important that you get your flu vaccine this year. I know there's a lot of challenges because of beliefs and other cultural norms, but it is extremely important. It's a very safe vaccine, been around for a long time, and will help us decrease the risk of flu as we work through the COVID pandemic. The vaccine for COVID is still a ways away. I know that there's talk about it coming soon, but to have a vaccine that's going to be safe for everybody, it's going to take a little bit more time to make sure that the vaccine is safe from a side effect standpoint, not just from the standpoint of being able to take care of the virus. We have transitioned some of our visits to virtual visits. Obviously, that doesn't work for immunizations, but we've been able to, for some of our chronic disease patients, been able to communicate with them virtually to make sure that they have the medications and the referrals, and we can order labs for them to free up space to be able to bring in the well child visit patients and the ability to bring their immunizations up to date. So we're going to be doing vaccination campaigns for flu, where there's an initiative through the state as well as through the city that we're participating in to really, really ramp up not just the vaccinations that are required for school, but also the flu vaccine to help decrease the risks of when someone has symptoms, knowing that they have the flu versus COVID. So I think with that, you know, it's a difficult time. We don't want you to miss out on very important healthcare. And so the Chat Center is here open and available to provide necessary testing, necessary well child visits, as well as all the immunizations that the children need. So I thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to being able to come back at some point and speak with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Verbrenner. I think we might have some questions. Would like to check with my trustee. Actually, I'm her sidekick today. Wonder Woman, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Terry. We do have a few, and we want to remind everybody that if you do have questions or comments, please put them in the Facebook chat or text them to 313-288-2082. And we are putting in the chat right now a survey for you to fill out so that you can be entered into a raffle for a $25 gift card. So one of the questions is around the vaccine. You said that it was going to take a little more time. Can you expand on that for those of us that don't necessarily don't know the vaccine process?
Sure.
And where we're at and how much more time, you think it's going to take?
Sure. So the development of a vaccine process usually takes a number of years. What has been done now, given that we have the significant event across the world, is a number of vaccine manufacturers have been working simultaneously, and the steps that normally would follow one after the other are being done at the same time. So the development of the process to mass produce a vaccine, some of these are actually already being mass produced without knowing if they're going to be effective or not, so that the steps that would normally happen in line are happening at the same time. So once we do identify one of the many vaccines that are being trialed right now, that it'll be much easier to disseminate, to get to everybody. So the current more promising vaccines are undergoing phase 3 trials. So that is where individuals volunteer to get the vaccine. One, to make sure that the vaccine does help protect, but also that the side effects that you can get from a vaccine aren't going to be there. And the problem is that usually takes a number of months to years to see if there are any long-term effects to those vaccines. So that's where our challenge is going to be. We have to make a decision based on the benefit that we're going to get from the vaccine. How long are we willing to wait to see if there's going to be side effects to that vaccine that could be negative for patients? So there are vaccines that are in that last phase, and they are showing to be promising that they are going to protect. Another thing is you have to get 2 of them. So you have to get one, and then a month later you have to get another one. So for every individual, there's going to have to be 2 doses that are produced. So even many more vaccines dosing needs to get produced. And then we want to make sure that we minimize the side effects of the vaccines as much as we can, so that we're not actually harming somebody by trying to protect them against COVID.
So for folks that are concerned about, so we know that the vaccine generally has some of the virus or has something that the body creates a defense mechanism against it. Some folks I think are concerned about what else is in vaccines that might be harmful. Can you speak to that at all?
So, vaccines that have been created, produced, and disseminated, or that are being used, are very, very, very safe. As these vaccines are being developed, the manufacturers and the regulatory bodies are always looking for what are the side effects that can happen from getting that vaccine. Same thing with any medication, new medications that come out. And there's always going to be even if one person in those trials has a headache, they have to put that down as a possible side effect. Even if it's only one individual out of thousands that get tested with the trial vaccine or the trial medication. So there's always a fear of, are the side effects going to outweigh the benefit of the vaccine? And I can tell you that for obviously all the ones that the schools require, as well as some of the other ones that they don't require, the one that protects against cervical cancer, the flu vaccine, are very, very safe. And the benefit that we're going to get from using those vaccines significantly outweigh all of the possible minor side effects that you can get. So all of the talk about autism and the talk about many other things that are major to us that can happen from a vaccine are almost non-existent. And the benefit that we're going to get from protecting everybody from the flu, from all of these illnesses that used to ravage the world in the past, are much more significant than any of the possible side effects that we could get from them.
Thank you. Okay, 2 more questions really quick.
Okay.
Where can people with no primary doctor get vaccines?
So the health department has sites where you can get vaccines if you don't have a primary care provider. I do not want to promote not having a primary care provider, because vaccines are not the only thing that we need to do to prevent illness. So the health department does have centers, sites that you can get vaccines if you don't have a primary care provider. We do provide vaccines for individuals that don't have another way to get them here at the center, but we are pushing and recommending that you become an established patient of the center to do that, because it's much more than just receiving a vaccine to protect against these things. It's all of the other visit things that are included.
Great. Last question. Kids are afraid to go to the doctors right now. How can we alleviate their fears? How do we approach this?
Okay, so everybody has been receiving for some time some mixed messages. At one point it was stay home, stay safe, don't come out for anything unless you need to get food. Now, I think because we don't have a vaccine, because we don't have an effective treatment yet, if we are wearing a mask at all times when you leave home, and you're using social distancing and washing your hands frequently, the risk of transmission of the virus is extremely low. So I think for right now, for individuals that are afraid to leave their home, even to go to the doctor, if you go and you wear your mask the whole time, and you're using the social distancing guidelines, and you're there exactly for what you need, and then you go back home, the risk of transmission of the virus is extremely low. So it's safe, and I know it's a scary time, but we know how effective the mask is in protecting individuals that don't have it, and in preventing the spread for individuals that do have it.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you so much for all of your helpful information and for all the work that you do every day in Southwest Detroit. I just have to give a little shout out. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Terry?
Yes. Hey, Christine. Thanks, Dr. Verbrenner. So thanks. That is always great information when it comes to how do we get back introduced into our normal health routines. So thank you, Dr. Verbrenner, for giving us that great information. Now I'm excited. I'm a big fan of this woman and the work that Citizen Detroit does every day, because as my mother told me, from the time that I could understand, people die for my right to vote. So it is upon us to step up and use our given right to vote, especially in this upcoming election. So right now, would love to toss it over to Ms. Sheila Cockrell with Citizen Detroit, so she can whip us into shape around voting and how do we get ready to do it. How you doing, Sheila?
I'm doing really, really well, Terry. Great to be with you. And really, this is a great project. It's really a pleasure to be a part of the conversation. I mean, the right to vote is something that has been hard fought for people of color in this country. Where white people are some white people, let me be clear on that, are beginning to understand better the idea of white privilege. The question is now going to be is how many of white people like myself really take the time to understand what that means. And that is it is all connected to voting because part of the efforts right now on the part of some is to suppress the vote, is to make people concerned about the safety of the process, the integrity of the process of sending in and collecting and reporting on people's ballots. There's an effort to make it difficult at polls if people go to the polls, efforts to intimidate folks by asking questions about people's ID, identification. The fact of the matter is, even in a race where you think you don't have a candidate that you really love, it's important to vote. I mean, if you've got to pick between Tweedledee and Tweedledum, pick one, because someone's going to be representing interests. And if you don't vote, if you're not part of the process, there's little chance that your interests, your needs, your perspectives are going to be represented. So we have a huge, I mean, I personally believe the most important election in my lifetime, and I have been around for a minute, is coming up on November 3rd. We all need to vote like our lives depend on it, because I believe our lives actually really do depend on it. Speak find your truth, speak your voice. The city of Detroit, County of Wayne, the state of Michigan are going to enormous lengths to make sure that there are multiple ways to vote. Changes the law mean now you have no reason absentee voting. There's early voting sometime later in September here. The ballots will be mailed out to people who've requested a mail-in ballot. That ballot, this controversy has arisen around the post office and the reliability of the post office to collect and deliver the ballots. And because of that, there are now ballot boxes that are going to be around the city where you can you can drive to the ballot box and put your ballot in that collection box. Then that will be then taken by the Election Commission to the proper place and stored until counting can begin. This is not only the election to vote for you personally to vote, but it is the election for you to make sure that anybody in your world who maybe doesn't think it's important, who thinks, none of them really represent my interests or my needs, this is the election where your voice must be heard. Pick whatever candidate you want. From Citizen Detroit point of view, our encouragement is that people vote and people vote informed. So really, learn the issues, learn the candidates, but make sure your voice is heard. And there are going to be extraordinary efforts made to make that process available to more and more folks. So we all have to do our part. So it's not just us vote, but we need to find that those one or two people in our world who don't, and get them to the polls, get them to file for an absentee to ballot if people don't want to go in to the polling location. So extraordinary efforts are underway. This is the year. This is the election where all of our voices must be heard. Thank you, Terry, very much.
There we go. Thank you, Sheila, for that. I think there's one stat before we move on that Michigan actually ended up going to our current president by a margin of less than 11,000 votes.
Yes, yes.
So when we think about where we're at right now is really directly related to the difference of 11,000 votes. To me, that was something that showed the importance of every vote counting.
You couldn't have said it better.
One question I've got for you, Sheila. What is Citizens Detroit's view or recommendation around the how to vote, given the fact that we are in a pandemic, given the fact that there are some deadlines coming up? Is there anything in particular that recommendations or guidance that you would suggest as it relates to the best ways for people to go out and vote this year?
Well, I think one of the important things to do is, if you can, get a sample ballot so you can see what all is on it. So for example, on the November ballot, they're going to be, which is a really important issue for all of us, the election of 3 school board members. So for example, on October 1, Citizen Detroit is going to do a virtual dinner and dialogue. This is going to be interesting, where we're going to have candidate speed dating. We're going to have the candidates go from Zoom breakout room to talk to residents about what are the critical issues that each of the candidates see. The critical thing that we at Citizen Detroit really believes is you've got to vote informed. If you're voting based on what somebody else told you, or on just hearing sort of catchphrases that resonate with you, you may be missing out on hearing somebody who really would be the best person to represent your points of view. So we're going to do that on October 1. And then on later in the month, we don't yet have the date tied down. We want to do an informational session on Proposal N, which is going to be on this ballot, which is the bond issue for demolition and renovation of houses in the city of Detroit. Both critical, both the school board and Proposal N are critical issues. So the big message is get informed. We have a website where we ask candidates, given COVID, to send us a 3-minute video that we will post. It's called informeddetroit.org. If you go on that website, we're asking, or kind of hounding all the candidates to get us a video so that we can put it up there so you can hear candidates in their own voice. We're doing that with more of the ballot than just the school board. Find places, find organizations whose views represent your interests, and get their take on who they're endorsing, for example, is one way. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to make your own mind up about what is in your best interest and that of your family.
We've got one question. We've got another question that's come in. I heard there were some issues with absentee ballots being counted in Detroit during the primary. What should we do to make sure our votes are counted if we vote absentee?
Right. My understanding of this issue in part is not that the votes aren't counted, but that if there needed to be a recount, if the tally for that precinct doesn't match with the number of ballots that were collected and counted, then that cannot be recounted. Measures are being put in place. The city clerk has asked for and gotten the assistance of a person, Chris Thomas, who was the director of elections for the state of Michigan for many years. There's a real focus on getting more talent and resource, part of the process. Anybody who would like to be a poll worker, we need to have people volunteer to be poll workers. Older folks who've been the sort of the soul and the driver of poll working for years are less able or willing to because of the threat for COVID. The older you are, the bigger the threat. So there's fewer people signing up to be poll workers. So it's a chance for others younger people to step up. And so, volunteer to be a poll worker. There's training provided, but that's really going to be another important way to make the process work for folks.
And then I believe you mentioned it earlier, but if you wouldn't mind, when's the earliest that someone can vote?
Well, my understanding is that the ballots are going to be mailed out the 3rd week of September. so you can begin to vote early. That's part of why Citizen Detroit, we're doing our candidate forums earlier than we normally would under normal circumstances, because we know that many people who might have gone to the polls in the past are not going to go this year, and we want to give the candidates the opportunity to get in front of voters to make their case before people make the decision to to actually fill out the ballots. So at the beginning, the last time I checked, the clerk's office will be mailing out ballots in the beginning of the third week of September. The other thing that I noticed that I just want to mention, I noticed at my house here now, I've gotten a couple of notices, this kind of official looking envelope that says, if you're not, our records show you're not registered, you need to register to vote. I think it's some organization trying to be helpful, but I'm a little troubled by it, because I think particularly in this period in our country, that would make you a little concerned. Who says I'm not registered to vote? I think it's just people trying to make sure that registration is really occurring. I think we also need to acknowledge what all the major sports franchises are doing, participating directly in the electoral process. And also, I think for younger people, having basketball players and football players and maybe even some baseball players urging people to exercise their right to vote, to stand up, is really important. We have to make it the coolest thing you can possibly do on November 3rd or before is vote, and wear your I voted today button proudly. That should be the emblem for us here in Detroit, that we are a true hardcore, straight ahead, let me be careful here, no nonsense Detroiter, because I voted. That's how we do everything we can to protect our city, not to mention getting people to fill out the census form. We're under 50% in the city of Detroit, in the state. I understand how we can all distrust the federal government, how we can be afraid of what people are doing with the information. Even in this current circumstance, that information, it cannot be unsealed for 72 years. Getting counted in the city of Detroit, everybody in your house, is really, really important. I believe the deadline is coming up pretty quick here, the 20th or so. So I cannot, again, there's two things to do. You want to prove you the real, for real Detroiter, fill out that census form and get somebody you know who hasn't to fill it out, and not only vote, but get people, particularly people who don't normally vote, to understand that this is the year where our lives really do depend on making sure our voices are heard.
Well, I can't think of anybody cooler than Sheila Cockrell to get people excited about voting. So and for those that have not had the pleasure of attending one of your candidate town halls, I did. And I can only imagine how that will translate into the virtual setting. I'll miss out on the spaghetti and the food that was at the event. But other than that, we'll have to figure out how to make it work. So just thank you, Sheila. Appreciate you for your time today and for all the work that Citizen Detroit does.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys are doing great work here. Pleasure to be a part of it.
Thank you. So now we're going to transition in terms of voice. Again, everything is around what's most important right now. And really one voice that we want to make sure as a coalition we continuously lift up and make room for is the voice of our young people. They are the ones that are experiencing this moment that we're in. They are directly impacted and affected by what's happening. And so we want to make sure that we provide the space and the opportunity for their voice to be heard. So right now, I would like to introduce Ms. Cassandra, who is a DPSCD student. How you doing, Cassandra?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, beautiful, wonderful. Glad to see you. So just start off with a basic question. School started this week. How are you? How are things going?
Well, things are going okay, I guess, in a way. You see, the issue is that many schedules are not being fixed, and mine including, I'm missing a core class that is needed for graduation. We're already falling behind. Some students have 10 classes, others are missing about 3 or 2, and it's become a very big issue because now that we're falling behind, it's not helpful that counselors have to have around 100 of about like 200 to 300, and we have like 7 counselors at our school at Cass Tech, so that's become a really big issue. I actually had a speech written, so I will start off with that. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cassandra Negrete, and I'm a student at Cass Tech. I'm also an organizer with 48 Forward, My Student String, Congress of Communities, and Girls Making Change. I was invited to join this town hall to talk about how my week has been going so far as a student doing virtual learning, and honestly, it has barely been 2 days of the beginning of the new school year, and there are many things going wrong so far. During the transition from face-to-face to virtual learning, many of the rules as well as school days stayed the same. I've heard so many of my classmates as well as my peers say they do not feel comfortable at all while doing online learning. When cameras are forced upon them, it makes them not want to learn, causing them to not concentrate. Others say that it is completely ridiculous how the teachers can tell them how to dress in their own homes, as well as how unwelcoming it is. Students like me need to feel comfortable being at home in order to learn the best that we can. Me and my classmates cannot sit for 8 hours straight looking at a computer screen, plus extra hours to complete our homework assignments, which is usually around 3 to 4. This is just ridiculous as it sounds. I'm confused about why it seems like only DPSED students have to do full 8-hour days, when many of my friends in charter private schools and suburban schools are only on the computer for 4 hours and are given time to do their homework for the other 4 hours. We have some students who cannot physically stare at the computer screen for so long. Others may just get sick of it and not show up after a few weeks. One of the biggest issues that must be fixed as soon as possible are schedule changes. I'm one of the students currently missing a core class from my schedule, which is needed for graduation. It has become an issue if they do not fix it on time, because then we will be even more behind than we already are. How is it possible that teachers are enforcing what a student can or can't eat in their own home, as well as trying to control what they wear? Schools cannot be so controlling and demanding in a space where they want to create for a student to feel comfortable with such a new thing. Transitioning to online learning is something that is not easy for anybody, which is why schools should be as considerate as possible. This is not only a challenging time for students, but also for teachers and parents. Many of them are still trying to figure out how to learn to use Schoology or Microsoft Teams. When internet issues happen, they have a frustrating time trying to navigate through everything, while other parents have younger children trying to get them to concentrate when it is hard for them to be on for 8 hours. Teachers are having trouble with all these new platforms and still are learning. Frustration levels rise with staff who need to show up every day and still afraid of the virus, afraid to carry them back to their homes. We all need to work together as a community to make sure Detroit students and families are treated fairly and that we prioritize health and safety.
Thank you, Cassandra. Again, we thank you. We know that this is a challenging time for everyone, but particularly for the students, because you're the ones that are in it right now. So thank you again for your time. And we all send you positive energy as you successfully navigate this coming school year. So thank you. Now we're going to kick it over to a pre-recorded video that is from another student voice. Salim is a senior at Western Michigan, and Ophelia is a member from Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, is a member of the COVID Coalition, and she had a chance to have a conversation with Salim.
So hello everybody, I'm Ophelia from DHDC, and here today for our town hall for Student Voice, we have a local youth that is from the neighborhood. I'd like to introduce you guys to Salim. Hello, Salim.
Hi, my name is Salim. I am a youth in urban neighborhood initiatives. I'm a senior and I'm going to be attending Western International High School this year in person.
All right, that's great. So you're Youth with Uni, which is local in the neighborhood. So that's great that you're a local a student, right? DPSCD. Can you tell me why you chose to do in person?
So one of the reasons why I chose in person is because I understand that most people were doing online. What that means for me is there'll be like less students in the classroom. So for one, interaction will play a bigger factor, as well as knowing the teacher can focus better because there's less students. I'm also doing in person because I'm also interested in like how it's going to be overall. Because like I'm pretty optimistic about the situation with COVID, and I'm willing to be like the one who goes to the schools. I'm also not really, that worried about education and protocol. I feel like they might be pretty like unprepared about it, but like everyone else. But that doesn't like unmotivate me. I'm still gonna try my best because once again, it is my senior year.
Salim, you said you're going to Western this year?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of students right now in person, or how many, like, more or less, can you count? Like, I know it's not as many students as prior because Western's a pretty big school. So what do you think is the population right now?
There's been a huge drop off in students. I'd say like on average, a class has like 10, 15 students in each one compared to like last year, which there was like 30, 25 students like minimum. Yeah.
And today was your second day of school. So how did that go today for you, or these past 2 days?
Right. So it's been pretty weird because even though like we're doing in person, they still have virtual classes. So how that works is that even though like we're in person, we go to the auditorium or the library and we just use our laptops that they gave us or our phones, and we just do the meeting there. And they also have been very strict about once again, like with the protocols, they've been very pushy about it. They make sure that we don't stay crowded in any areas. Yeah, it's actually, I feel very safe about it.
That's good. Thank you for that feedback. How do you think, or what are your expectations for the rest of the school year?
My expectations is that I feel as though COVID might die down a bit, so there might be like a little more lenient about the, protocols with time. But education-wise, I'm not really sure because from what I've seen, it's been really light. I'm not sure if they're going to be very good with it, education this year, but hopefully I'm wrong about that.
All right. Well, thank you, Salim, for your input as a student perspective, as a student who chose to do in person, and maybe we'll follow up with you in a few weeks to see how your school experience is going.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Salim.
Thank you.
Terry, you're muted.
That's what happens when you start cursing on TV. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Salim, and thank you, Cassandra. We're excited now to have, we're going to bring on Krista Wilson with the Detroit Public Schools Community District. And we've got some questions, but we also have our friend Sean Leonard he was the Director of School Quality at the National Heritage Academies. So I've got some questions. We've got about 10 minutes. So actually what we'll do is we'll go back and forth. So Crystal, I'll start off with you, and then Sean, and then we'll just jump back and forth. So Crystal, one question that we have is how is in-person happening? Is in-person just learning labs? And then who is staffing the schools?
So glad to be here. Thank you for being able to host the show. even though school has started and everybody found the time to continue this work. We started school yesterday, and we were really excited to see students back in the classroom and see teachers back in the classroom teaching. Lots of safety protocols that we are seeing enforced and followed. That's the key to preventing the spread is when people come into the building, our families, our staff, our students, when they follow the protocol faithfully, such as wearing their mask, taking their temperature, honestly answering the health questionnaire, using sanitizer, social distancing. We witnessed in school visits, teachers spending the first couple of days really explaining to students the new protocols that will be in place. I don't want to call it normal because this is not normal. We are in a pandemic, and we're trying to work through some of the issues and challenges that you may have been hearing. So in school, there's teachers, the face-to-face learning, teaching lessons. The first week is more acclimating, welcoming back students, explaining why mask wearing is important, reviewing the COVID safety protocols, adjusting to the new breakfast and lunch procedures, reviewing student expectations for this year as things are going to be different, and just really orienting to the online learning tools that we'll be leveraging.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. Sean, same question. How is in-person happening? Is in-person just learning labs? And then who are staffing the schools?
Yeah, so thanks, Terry, for the opportunity to come back and then share the information, what's happening with our schools. So with our schools, we have a combination of remote and hybrid in-person instruction that's happening. And so I want to talk about both of those in two different arenas to answer your question. So first, let's talk about our hybrid schools. So those are schools that have come back in person with scheduled days, 2 days each week for students to be in person, and 3 days they're actually working remotely. And the whole idea behind that is to make sure that we're limiting the number of students in the school so that we can promote the safety protocols that's needed to limit the spread of COVID. And so the way that that's structured is that students would come to school on Monday and Tuesday as one group. We call it our A group. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they would be working remotely. And then if you're a B group student, you would actually work remotely Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then come back to school face-to-face on Thursday and Friday with the teacher. And so when we designed our learning plan for both our hybrid and our remote students, like I mentioned last week, we started that planning back in June. And so what we realized was that when COVID first hit, like we had to pivot what's happening with instruction back in March. And so we realized that there is some level of learning loss with that change in the instruction model so quickly. And so we designed our curriculum this year to make sure that students are getting those skills that they may have missed last year back in March, and using that as reteaching strategies to begin the school year. So if I'm a hybrid student or if I'm a remote student, the way in which we've designed our curriculum to come back starts with resetting that foundation for that grade level to help those students be successful. And so when I'm a student as a hybrid student that's working remotely, now I have scheduled what we call asynchronous and synchronous activities that's happening. So teachers actually connect with those students using synchronous or scheduled instruction, as well as asynchronous activities or independent activities that they're working on when they're working remotely. Now, when you're a virtual student or 100% remote student, now you basically take that same approach and you apply it for 5 days. So you have scheduled content that you're working with a teacher, intentionally centered around teaching you those strategies that you need to help you be successful. But then we also have asynchronous content that you're working on independently.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. And that's actually a great segue, Crystal, for our next question. Can you discuss the district's plan or plan of action around balancing synchronous and asynchronous learning within your online curriculum? can hear you.
Okay, so it's a little bit different with DPSCD. We have face-to-face classes that are happening with a teacher in the classroom. That teacher is not teaching the online student. It's a separate teacher that's teaching the online student. Our online students are adhering to the schedule of the regular school day with, of course, breaks. That's a separate teacher. And we're continuing to schedule the school day as we will normally for both online and for face-to-face teaching, as well as students who are getting online through the learning center. So essentially, the students who signed up for face-to-face, but the school went totally online, they go to attend school at the learning center, and then they receive instruction with their same teacher, same school, but online in the learning center. And so the idea is to create a sense of school as what a school day that they're accustomed to. Dr. Dee is also listening to families, and we've received sort of what we heard from the students earlier. We've received some concerns that there may need to be a hybrid approach just to keep students engaged. So the district is working to identify if there is a need across the district, or is that going to be a need as it pertains to certain schools, such as like a high school, who may require a hybrid type of learning model where they will go face-to-face one day and hybrid another day online. So we're working to be flexible. We're listening to our teachers, we're listening to our students and families to really address their needs. Another need is for families to better acclimate to the online tool. So we are going to commit to extending the Parent Academy school learning for parents beyond the 11th. So we had academies set up through the 11th. We're going to do them every day throughout the rest of the month. And we're going to do more of an in-school academy because a lot of our families are more hands-on, and the computer and tablet is a barrier. And so we're going to set up parent learning centers in the school so that we can have an instructor hands-on working with the parents to help navigate the technology, because it is a barrier, and we want to ensure that we remove all barriers for families so that they can get into the instruction and not distracted by some of the technology challenges that we're seeing.
Awesome. I'm actually going to transition because these were some questions that we had from last week. I'm going to kick it over to, I guess, again, I'm her sidekick today. I'm going to kick it over to Wonder Woman because I think she's got some questions from the audience.
Thanks, Terry. Okay, it's good to see everyone again, Sean and Crystal. This question is, how can we streamline processes for virtual learning? It has been difficult for parents to get the technology to work properly. So any suggestions?
Yeah, so one of the ways we've tried to help that, Christine, is within our schools, we've actually provided Chromebooks to every student that's enrolled within our network of schools. And the reason why we wanted to do that was to help streamline that process. Like, we realized that not every one of our students has access to devices at home. And so we wanted to make sure that we're investing in that resource to make sure that that's happening. The other thing that we've done is we've done research to provide to parents around how to access low cost and free internet within each of our areas. And so parents are able to get that information from the schools, when it's requested. And also schools have shared that information in their, virtual back to school nights and things like that. We also have invested in providing hotspots to those families that, through the research, maybe they're not able to connect with those low cost or free resources. We've done that as well. And so we've tried to take away that technology barrier right from the start so that students can focus on the teaching and learning that's needed. And then going back to the original statement about what's happening with the teaching and learning, we've intentionally developed our curriculum and the instructional approach through the lens of what's best for teaching and learning in this remote setting. So when we talk about synchronous instruction, students aren't connected to a teacher for 8 hours online, because we believe that small group intentional instruction is what works best. And so the technology is provided through that lens to give those students that small group support with a teacher while also working on independent or asynchronous content as a part of their actual school day.
Great, thank you. Crystal, do you want to add to that or have anything additional related to DPSCD?
Right, so adding to that, I know everyone is familiar with the Connected Futures Initiative. We thank our business partners who provided tablets to all students who were enrolled in district as of February 2020 school year. They provided us tablets, and we are still continuing to distribute tablets. The students who were pre-K and kindergarten and new students did not qualify for that program, so we are issuing loaners to those students so that they can also have tablets. The other thing is we are encouraging families to stay close to their schools, because schools will be notifying families on distribution of materials. We know that there are still some families who like a packet, so every 9 weeks we will be providing a packet of information. We will be providing the workbooks and school books every 9 weeks. Now, some of the materials will need to be returned back to the school, and so that's why it's important for families to stay in contact so they'll know which materials they can keep and what materials that they'll need to take back to the school after the 9-week period. And just helping our families to work through navigating the tablet. We've had several parents tell us how difficult it is to log on. And I would say keep in contact with the teachers and keep in contact with your school personnel. Get first aid so that when you do call, you know who to go to last. And really just try to send that as best we can. We've had a lot of families reach out to us through email and Facebook, so continue to check their email, and to the extent possible, we are working to return all phone calls within 24 hours, if not sooner.
Great, thank you. Crystal, this is specifically for DPSCD. My child just started high school in DPSCD. The school offers in person, but it's to come into the building and work online only without a teacher. If they want an in-person teacher, they must go to another school that offers that, but that would still be considered a student from the school they've come from. So
I'm not really clear on the details of this, so I would encourage the parent to contact the parent hotline at area code 313-240-4377 so that we can understand the details that pertain to that student. I would love to help problem solve through it, but I would need additional details.
So Crystal, will you say that number one more time? It's still like a little bit difficult to hear you. So could you just say it one more time so this parent and parents that might be experiencing the same issue should call the parent hotline, and the number is?
Area code 313-240-4377.
Awesome. So
and I also
that
put
was
it in the chat.
great. So if our moderators could take that number out of the chat and put it in the Facebook chat, that's the parent hotline. And if parents are experiencing this or other issues, they should reach out to this hotline. So the last question, and Sean, if you could speak to this just for timing reasons. Thank you, Crystal. What does in-person learning look like for disabled children / special needs in elementary, middle school, and high school? So what does in-person look like for our special ed students?
Yeah, another great question. And I think we talked about this question last week as well. And so really, when we think about our special education students in person, like their day doesn't look any different than it normally would in a non-COVID reopening structure. So the student's individual education plan is priority with making sure that those goals are being met and the support for that student to help him or her reach those goals are in place. And so when it comes to what does that look like in elementary, middle, or high school, it begins with the individual needs of the student and making sure that those needs are also being met. While at the same time, the whole goal of the individual education plan is help close that achievement gap for our special education students. And so the structure of their school day will look no different than if we were reopening in a non-COVID space through the lens of making sure that their core content areas are being supported from a general education perspective. But the idea of something being different just because we're opening in hybrid, that doesn't change.
Great, thank you so much, Sean. Crystal, there was one question about whether the parent hotline is bilingual. Hopefully she can answer that.
Yes, the parent hotline is bilingual. We have translation services for our families. And also the parent hotline is bilingual as well, and the mental health hotline. And so the individual who contacts the hotline, they can indicate what language they need to use, and we will be happy to help them.
Great, thank you all so much. My partner is back on, which means our time is definitely up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Crystal. And Christine and our team knows I've been waiting for 25 weeks to be able to do this. So, no, but thanks. That is great information. And as always, just appreciative of our school partners for joining the conversation. Now we will have our parent to help us close out. Our Hope Starts Here parent, Ms. Jacqueline Poku from Hope Starts Here, to close us out with some words to close the day. How many times do we say close in the closing? Ms. Poku, how you doing?
I'm fine, but now my battery is dying. Oh my God. Okay, my name is Jacqueline Poku. I'm a community outreach specialist with Hope Starts Here. I work at with District 2, and there was such great information. Before my battery dies on me, I will point out one thing. We're working on the 6 a day with this initiative, with Hope Starts Here initiative. The singing to your children, playing with your children, reading to your children, encouraging them, and hugging them. It's extremely important. But right now, like I said, we're working with the child care providers, who may very well be our first teachers for our kids. And we're concerned that they're not being treated as child care or educators. They're being treated more like that they're babysitters. Shucks, thanks about that. So I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to say, but just keep in mind all of the people who are involved in the city of Detroit need to put our children first. And what better way to put our children first is to have all the players in place. Our local government, our parents, our community partners, our businesses, all should play a role, because that will be able to help everyone. I'm kind of out of gas. I was about to die.
No worries, Ms. Poku.
I had this prepared speech, but by this, get ready to die at any second. Oh, I'm a grandparent as well as a guardian. I'm just gonna start rattling.
No, you're good. No, thank you, because we need you to have power, because wherever you're in your car, wherever you're at. So we need you to be able to get home safely. So thank you for joining us today. Really, this is always great. Those keys are important to every adult that is connected to any young person. So thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Christine to close us out.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, and I hope you get powered up here quickly. We've reached our time to wrap up our town hall. We want to thank each of our panelists, and we'd also like to thank each of you for joining us today. If your question wasn't answered, we will get the answer and post them next week on onedetroitpbs.org and on the DPTV Facebook page. If you have questions between now and next week, don't hesitate to send them to us. You can text them to us at 313-288-2082. If you'd like regular updates, please fill out the form in the chat or put your email or phone number in the Facebook chat, or you can text us at 313-288-2082. We also want you to know, as you can tell, for the last 4 weeks or so, we've been doing shorter programs, and we're going to continue to do that so that we can better accommodate our families, but still make sure you're all getting the best information that you need just in a shorter period of time. And as always, I have a few asks. If you have feedback for your school, please fill out our survey and the survey is going to be dropped into the chat, but it's tinyurl.com/first-week-feedback-Detroit. I know that some of you folks have been putting in the chat that the parent hotline has been backed up. Please use our survey as a way of giving feedback, and we will make sure we get that to the appropriate folks. So please fill out the survey. Also, we talked a lot about it today. Make sure that you register to vote. If you've registered and you want to get an absentee ballot, do that and make sure you mail it in, and so that your vote is counted. Make sure you register so that you can vote in November. You can register in person up until the November election at your local clerk's office, and online at the link that's in the chat right now. If you have already registered, you can go to ballotready.org and make your plan to vote. In these very uncertain times, planning has become really important, so make sure you do that. Second, or actually I think this is my third ask now, please make sure you fill out your census. The new deadline is September 30th. It is fast approaching. In Detroit, we only have 49% of our households that have completed the census. Each family who fills out the census means more resources for Detroit. That's food, that's Head Start, that's education. We cannot, I don't think I can put an emphasis on how important filling out the census means for the long term of Detroit, for the next 10 years. Please fill out your census today. Please encourage your families, other family members in other households to fill out their census. It's incredibly important. Lastly, DPN is hiring. We are posting the openings in the chat, or you can just go to Detroit Parent Network's website. Before you go, we want to hear from you about what you want to hear more about, or experts that you want to hear from. Please put those in the chat right now, or text us at 313-288-2082. We're posting a survey in the chat one last time. If you fill it out, you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card. This town hall is truly a group effort. So before we go, we'd like all of our partners to turn on their video. Thank you. We want to remind everybody to stay healthy, stay powerful, and stay strong. Can you say that in Spanish?
Sí, manténganse saludables, manténganse poderosos y manténganse fuertes.
Thank you
Gracias,
so much.
thank you.
Saeed, can you say that in Arabic?
حافظ على صحتك، ابقى ثابتا ومتينا وابقى قويا. إلى اللقاء. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.
You too.
We'll see you next week.